Hello aspirants, looking at the editorials and question bank for 23rd November. The two editorials, the first one in the Hindu newspaper was pitching reform at the BCCI. So we have already discussed this in news yesterday. So this was yesterday's news about BCCI Lodha panel reforms, and the editorial is basically speaking about both to understand that reforms are required. So BCCI also has to tone down its position and accept reforms, plus even the judiciary should tone down and make sure that the reforms are not imposing as such, which results in reluctance on the acceptance. So both sides have to understand and come to a middle ground and bring reforms forth. So the stand taken here is that the G.K. Pillai, former Union Home Secretary, who has been named as an observer by the Lodha report, the third report which was submitted, we did this yesterday only. So this G.K. Pillai specifically been named as an observer is also an issue, because the recommendation should be kept open. This specifically putting in points and asking the Supreme Court to approve it, and heavy-handedness on BCCI is also turning counterproductive. So this is a one point which has been put forth in this editorial. Otherwise, we have discussed all this. You can look into yesterday's news. We will come to all this. Then even this has been discussed, Zika, no club complacency on Zika. So this has also been discussed in news on 20th November. So this was World Health Organization which declared that Zika is no longer a public health emergency when there have been numerous casualties in Brazil. Also, there are 2,300 confirmed cases of microcephaly, a birth defect in which the brain size is a little small, the head size, which is found in children in Brazil. So why is it specifically in Brazil that the disease has affected such a huge population has to be analyzed. So these analysis and a fight against this disease is important. So now the global threat which Zika was posing, that global threat has been declared ended now by World Health Organization, but it says that Zika still remains a threat and we will be working on it on war footing. So let's see what happens, because this is how Zika has spread, and presently we are seeing it prominently in Brazil. So even here it is said that it happened in Brazil in 2015. The outbreak took place because of a international sporting event which took place in 2014 in Brazil. So that was the FIFA World Cup, and it has gone from French Polynesia, an island nation in Pacific Ocean. In 2014 an outbreak was seen here, and now it has gone and transmitted to Brazil, and here it's affecting a huge section of the population in a particular region in Brazil. So why this spread is in a particular place, this needs to be investigated upon. So that is also highlighted. So it has an history as such. So there is no treatment and no vaccine presently available, and scientists are working on developing treatment for this disease as well as a vaccine for this. So this is the entire earlier first outbreak was in Africa, in Uganda in 1947, and since then it has been erupting quite often, but right now it had become a global threat. So it had affected many countries in 2015 also, but majorly affected was Brazil. So of course it is transmitted, this virus is transmitted by the mosquito, which is the vector. So the Aedes mosquito, and especially the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which also transmits diseases like dengue and chikungunya, and also yellow fever, is responsible for even Zika virus transfer. So this is there. The microcephaly also we see this, the normal head size is this, and this is the smaller head size which is the seen in children. So this is microcephaly, which is very much prominent in Brazil. You can see there are 4,180 cases in 2015-16 of microcephaly which were reported in Brazil. So these are the two editorials. Next we look at the question bank. So the lead article in today's Hindu newspaper is again on Trump. I don't know why Hindu is obsessed with him and how he won. So we can just skip it. So the three other articles have been picked up for question, though the articles are not completely comprehensive. We'll need many more points from outside too. So I've tried to inculcate some, but you can add up more points and enhance your answer. The first question is, what is data exclusivity? How is it different from patent right? Discuss its impact on generic drugs. So to understand each of these terms, data exclusivity. So this is with respect to patenting only. So in patent right provided to a particular company is different and data exclusivity is different. So what is data exclusivity? It's related to IPR, intellectual property rights. So data exclusivity is a type of protection, intellectual property protection, wherein the clinical trial and other data submitted by the originator drug company cannot be used or relied upon by a drug regulator authority to approve a generic version of that drug for a certain period of time. So okay, what you understand from this is the pharmaceutical companies or any company which is demanding intellectual property right, a patent, is having trials conducted for its product. So all these trials, clinical trials which have been done, so all that data and other related data with respect to this is submitted to the regulatory authority. So in every country, the patent has to be provided for. So if there is an international pharmaceutical company, it will have to apply for patent in India too. So Indian regulator will look into it. So all this data provided before it cannot be used for other purpose by this regulator. So that is what it means, that this data which the company, pharmaceutical company which has originated a drug is providing is for its exclusive purpose only. So because what is there is, there are generic drugs. So these generic companies develop generic drugs, and these generic drugs are also said to be bioequivalent. So bioequivalence tests are done. So bioequivalent is there, this test is there. So this is a bioequivalent of the drug, original drug which has been developed by this pharmaceutical company. So there are no separate clinical trials done by these generic companies. So they rely on the data of these pharmaceutical companies only. So that is data exclusivity, that these generic drug companies cannot use this data for a particular time frame. So data exclusivity is said to be TRIPS plus. TRIPS is trade related intellectual property rights under WTO. So TRIPS agreement is what every WTO member has to comply with. So intellectual property rights have to be conferred on companies. But then this data exclusivity provision is said to be TRIPS plus. Plus means beyond TRIPS. So TRIPS is not asking for providing data exclusivity. It is a norm beyond this. So India is against data exclusivity, but then data exclusivity has been provided by India too. So earlier it was said that not for pharmaceutical companies, but for agrochemical companies it can be provided. But now we have seen that even data exclusivity has been provided for pharmaceutical companies, and data exclusivity is there for 4 years. So now another part which we come to the question as was difference of data between data exclusivity and patent rights. So patents are given in India for a period of 20 years, and patents will not be given to all. So any company, irrespective of whether it has been given a patent or not, can apply for data exclusivity. So data exclusivity right gives its additional or separate power that for 4 years no generic company can use its clinical trial data. So then a generic drug cannot be launched because the clinical trial is essential. Then what the generic company can do is it can conduct its own separate clinical trials, which is a costly affair, and also it has ethical concerns because animals may be used in these trials, or even humans are the people on whom these trials are conducted for the same molecule, same drug. If the companies are doing trials again, so it's a huge loss and wastage, and also ethically a concern for humans being put to trial, animals also being put to trial for this purpose. So these are the aspects. So of course generic companies generally wait for this data exclusivity time frame to get over, and then they launch their generic drugs. So this is the point put forward. Presently the proposal is that this 4-year term will be extended to 10 years. So the companies can get data exclusivity for 10 years. So this is being protested against, that why this enhancement is being given. So this all depends on how data exclusivity, what data is considered under data exclusivity. Because anyway the companies will have to do a bioequivalence test also. So bioequivalence test means to show that the generic drug which they are launching and the drug for which the patent company, pharmaceutical company has applied for a patent or has submitted clinical trials is bioequivalent, is equivalent the same, it will act the same way. So this bioequivalence tests of course conducted by generic companies. So now what kind of data will the regulating authorities ask for from generic companies is still not clear. So we have to wait and watch whether this data exclusivity which would be brought in India at the state regulatory authorities level, it has been extended from 4 years to 10 years. So how would it be put into effect? If implemented is a wait and watch game. So we'll have to wait and see. So there are proponents talking in favor of it, and there are also people talking against it. So that is clear. So this is about the Patents Act 2. As I told you, it is provided for 20 years. The amendment which was done in 2005 in the Patent Act was to provide even product patenting. So earlier we were providing only process patenting. Now India provides product as well as process patenting. What is the difference? Process patenting means the process is patented. The final product is not. So means through the process it is patented. If the same process is used for some other commodity or something else prepared, then there is no separate patent for that separate product. So that is the idea. And product patenting means the product, if little modified too, or if modified in such a way that there is some difference in some better useful aspect coming out, then that another product can also be patented. So that is what generally pharmaceutical companies do, that they have a particular drug and then they enhance its efficiency in such a way that it becomes a different product. So then that also has to be patented. So 20 years patent they got for the first time, then with an enhancement showing significant change, and they ask for another patent, so it is expanded for another 20 years. So that is what is called as evergreening of patents, that they keep on expanding the patents duration. So this product patenting was not there in India, but we brought in with 2005 amendment. So this is there. Then this is about the branded drugs and generic drugs. So what do you mean by the term generic drugs? You should understand that the branded drugs which are there are produced by pharmaceutical companies with a huge amount of research and development, investment being done, clinical trials being conducted, and then brought in the market, and they generally are given patents. So once patent is provided to them, then after their patent expires, generic drugs can also be launched. So there are of course compulsory licensing. This is a provision under patent law, even WTO TRIPS compliant law, that a country can provide compulsory license to another generic drug manufacturer for a product which has been patented in the country but which is for a life-threatening disease. So for that purpose, the generic drug manufacturer is asked to produce those drugs. So this compulsory licensing is another exception which is WTO compliant and there to ensure that generic drugs are also available for some life-threatening diseases. So this is there. Then this is about the data exclusivity which we already spoke about. So that is about this. Here it is also shown how data exclusivity and patent protection work. So patent protection, as I said, is for 20 years and this presently is for 4 years. Then it may expand or go ahead or low. So this may run concurrently to run before it, as the case may be. So this is how it is. Then the next question is framed on railway security. So the question is, how can railway security be enhanced in India? Discuss in light of the recommendations of Anil Kakotkar Committee on Railway Safety. So this is regarding the Indore-Rajendra Express train incident which took place in which 14 coaches derailed. It led to loss of around 146 people's lives. Many have been seriously injured and hospitalized too. So the reason for this derailment is still being investigated, but in India it is seen that in almost 70% of the cases of rail accidents, it is human error which is responsible. So generally, as it is seen that the question asked is who is responsible and not what is responsible, because that is also very important. There have been many recommendations put forth by Anil Kakotkar Committee on Railway Safety too, and even earlier recommendations put forth. All these point to the technical developments and the changes, reforms required to ensure that railway safety is enhanced. So all these also have to be put into effect. So this transformation coming forth is very essential. So the first point put forth is ask what, not who. Then second point put forth is free flow of information. So this is regarding the railway, these disasters which take place. These disasters occur, but then there are many cases which are near miss incidents. Means it would have become a disaster. So in all such cases too, the information does not reach up the hierarchy. So there is a need for free flow of information, when even a confidential system can be put in place where all the information regarding such incidences can be put forth without any blame being put on anybody, so that corrective measures can be brought in to ensure that such disasters can be avoided. So that is also important. Then a cost benefit analysis of investments is being asked for, that when investments are put in for railway safety, then whether they are paying or not, what kind of investments are being made. So that cost benefit analysis is important. And also another last point is reports in public domain. So whatever are the reasons for such disasters, all these reports are presently kept confidential. So it is argued that there is no need for confidentiality in such cases. Rather, these reports have to be put up in public domain, so that people also know what measures are being taken and the blame is not always put on railways too. So these are points in this article, but much more important points are points put forth by the Anil Kakodkar committee, which we have discussed earlier too. So which spoke about the advanced signaling system. So which is even a computerized system here can be put in place, so that if whenever delays do occur, we should know where is the exact location of a train. So if a computerized system, online system, real-time data is provided, then there is no cause for human error and lack of judgment on where the train positions are and any clashes taking place. Then another one is all manned and unmanned level crossings have to be ended. So this elimination is important. And of course, the most important recommendation about LHB coaches should be introduced, and these ICF coaches, integrated coach factory coaches, have to be phased out. So this is very important. We have discussed this in detail yesterday too in the editorial section. Please refer to it. So this is about anti-telescoping, means LHB coaches don't turn turtle. So their design is such, they are made of stainless steel. So that helps in better shock absorbing capacity. Then they have disc brakes, so that results in shorter stopping distance. So this helps in stopping quicker, so that also helps in averting disasters. The coupling system of all the coaches in LHB designed coaches is such that the relative motion between two coaches is reduced. So this helps them, they do not turn over one another. So that is also generally seen in disasters. So that also turning over and telescoping into each other is avoided. Also, LHB coaches have shorter wheelbase, so this helps them in navigating sharp curves at high speed easily. So it is seen that LHB coaches are essential for high speed trains. So presently they are predominantly used in Rajdhani and Shatabdi trains in India. But what is the recommendation of Anil Kakodkar committee too is that they should be introduced for all trains. So all ICF coaches should be replaced by LHB coaches. So government, the railway ministry has also announced that from 2018 onwards, no more ICF coaches will be manufactured in India. So we'll have to see how long does it take, but this is essential to avert major railway disasters. Then the next question is, critically analyze the major provisions of Right to Education Act 2009. How far can it help in eliminating disaster in education? So presently the article which is there on the perspective page in Hindu is on one specific provision of Right to Education Act, in which 25% seats in all schools, including in private schools, have to be reserved for economically weaker section of the society, the children from this community, and the fee, school fee is waived for them. They don't have to pay school fee. The government provides for this. But then there are other fees too which are demanded by the schools, like picnic fees, fees for some extra activities. So all these are also not afforded. They are not affordable by this section. So then these children feel excluded. So social exclusion becomes dominant here. So what is required in this case is that teachers, school authorities, plus also the parents of the remaining 75 section students have to come together and frame policies, and framework of the school should be such that this social exclusion does not take place. So empathy towards this society, towards the community is very important to make sure that social inclusion can be brought in. So this is one point which is there in the article. But then discussing the major provisions, you should know that Right to Education Act 2009 guarantees free and compulsory education to all children from 6 to 14 years of age group. So it is applicable to entire India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir, where there is a separate laws. So this Right to Education 25% reservation is another important provision, and also it prohibits capitation fee. So no donation or capitation fee can be taken by schools. It also prohibits interviews which are conducted or any examination which is conducted for giving admissions to students. So that is also not allowed. Plus also no child should be detained. So no detention policy is also part of RT. So there, even if the child is not capable of clearing one stage, he has to be promoted to the next stage. So this no detention policy is also part of RT. So this is there. Then these are other provisions also, the time frame which has been provided under the RTA Act to implement them. So school infrastructure has to be enhanced, neighborhood schools need to be established, teacher student ratio has to be improved, the training should be provided for untrained teachers, quality interventions should be brought in. So these provisions are also there. So these are the major provisions of RTA Act. And talking about inclusion and discrimination, this we already discussed about the 25% seats. So this is there. So a critical analysis of government schools and public schools as provided here is seen that government schools have to be enhanced. That is one important factor which is missing in India to make right to education a reality. So free and compulsory education, though guaranteed, that it is difficult to be implemented because government school system is not up to the mark. Mismanagement and absenteeism is very high. So this is very important that these aspects are taken care of, and then only RT can be embraced in full spirit by the entire country. So that is it for today. Thank you.